You're watching Inside the Americas. Here's a look at what's coming up in today's show. As America is hit with another school shooting, high school senior Emma Gonzalez becomes the face of the so-called mass shooting generation. More on the young survivor and gun control advocate on the way. Then a look at the French agency that's trying to help Brazilians get the clean water they need. And the president of landlocked Bolivia takes Chile to the World Court to try and get his country access to the Pacific. I'm Jeannie Godula. We'll start first with our number of the week, 17. That is for the 17 school shootings in America this year that left someone hurt or killed. And I don't need to remind you that we are only 12 weeks into 2018. The most recent was just a few days ago at a high school in Maryland that hurt 2 students and left the shooter dead. But as the violence goes on without any real movement from the government, the students themselves are now fighting for gun control. One of the most compelling advocates is Emma Gonzalez. She's a senior at the Florida school where 17 people were killed on Valentine's Day. Gonzalez has become the voice of what's been dubbed the mass shooting generation, taking on both President Donald Trump and the powerful NRA. Nick Rushworth takes a look.
People are worth to you, Trump.
Emma Gonzalez and her fellow student gun control campaigners call themselves the mass shooting generation. She came to prominence with a speech 3 days after the Stoneman Douglas High School killing. It went viral.
If the president wants to come up to me and tell me to my face that it was a terrible tragedy and how it should never have happened, and maintain telling us how nothing is going to be done about it, I'm going to happily ask him how much money he received from the National Rifle Association. To every politician who is taking donations from the NRA, shame on you.
And that became a slogan. There was a social media campaign with hashtags including Enough, Never Again, and March for Our Lives. The Cuban-American 18-year-old has more than 1.25 million followers on Twitter, twice as many as the NRA. Interviewed by CBS, she was asked what she thought about President Donald Trump's proposal of introducing weapons into the classroom.
It's stupid.
Why?
First of all, Douglas ran out of paper for like 2 weeks in the school year, and now all of a sudden they have $400 million to pay for teachers to get trained to arm themselves? Really?
Where's the one with the good handwriting?
Gonzalez and fellow campaigners have had death threats. She's been trolled for her hair and for her sexual orientation. She's bisexual and president of the high school's Gay-Straight Alliance.
What is happening to her life?
Somebody said, please tell Emma we're behind her, which I appreciate, but we should have been in front of her. I should have been in front of her. We all adults, we should have dealt with this 20 years ago.
These tragedies don't seem to stop.
And that is one of Emma Gonzalez's central messages. She says that adults are behaving like children, while children are expected to act like adults. She says she wants adults to take action against gun violence.
Let's begin.
And is calling on students to register to vote, to apply pressure on politicians, and to protest.
It's been less than a week now since Brazilian activist and councilwoman Marielle Franco was killed, and her best friend and political alter ego, Taleria Petrone, has vowed to carry on their struggle. Her announcement coming as once again protesters gathered to make their anger over Franco's apparent assassination known. Franco and Petrone were almost like twins in a political landscape where powerful black women are few and far between. Simon Harding reports.
All around her office are posters, stickers, which remind Taleria Petrone of one of her best friends. 1 week ago, Marielle Franco was shot dead by professional hitmen. Like Petrone, she was a municipal councillor, a vocal critic of police brutality in favelas, and a fierce supporter of women's rights.
Killing
Marielle was an insult. It was yet another violent step against human rights activists. I would be lying if I said I wasn't scared. I don't have any problems in saying that I'm frightened, but this fear doesn't stop me in any way. It gives me a force that's stronger than any fear.
Both women were part of the left-wing PSOL party but embodied a new political movement which championed gay rights. And as black favela spokeswomen, they also represented the black community, often marginalized and victims of racism. The assassination is viewed by many as a move to keep quiet the views that Franco expressed.
We are sad because today a black woman who had much hope in the struggle and who lived in a favela was taken by all of this injustice and militarism that exists in Rio de Janeiro. We are not going to allow this to continue. Marielle is here, Marielle is here, Marielle is here.
Thousands of people protested across Brazil following Franco's death. They call for justice and equality for all Brazilians, saying that the 4 bullets which had hit the Rio politician had also struck Brazilian democracy.
Also this week in Brazil, the World Water Forum is on in the capital, Brasilia. Brazil is a country that seems rich when it comes to water, but in fact, those resources are unevenly distributed. Over 1 in 4 Brazilians has no access to purified drinking water, and dirty water from sanitation regularly pours into nature. But the French Development Agency is now working to improve water access and cleanliness in Brazil with their first loan for a new sewage project. Fanny, Lothaire and Osborn have the details.
In this poor, densely populated neighborhood in the city of Curitibanos in southern Brazil, the residents have never seen their water be clear. A tributary which joins their houses receives the outpour from sewers upstream. It's a common situation in favelas of the country, but in a few months, their lives will change thanks to these sanitation projects. Luciana França is a social worker, explaining this small revolution to residents.
This brings profits into the city. It's going to increase the value of your house and contribute to protecting the environment.
Yeah, I hope there's going to be less excrement floating in the streets.
When Donna Jeanette arrived here and opened her business, she linked it with a sewage system, but doesn't know where that sewage system goes. Many people tell me, but we already have a sewage system. I answer, no, you don't. You're connected to an illegal network which pollutes, so we're proposing a clean system.
Donna Janetti's nephews constantly struggle with diarrhea. So with this new sewer system, she hopes they'll stay healthy. The World Health Organization says every euro invested in better drinking water access and purification allows 4 euros of savings in the healthcare sector.
Last week we had a leak and the water was brown. It smelled really bad. Since then I've been boiling the water as a precaution for the children.
200,000 people like her will benefit from this new system by the end of the year. It's the first of its kind in Brazil. To build its 500 kilometers of high-tech sewers, the regional water company successfully got France's attention. Technicians from the French Development Agency came to supervise the work.
Our policy is to supervise and check the quality of the work, both its operational quality, of course, and that the AFD funds are being used correctly. There can't be any embezzlement of the money loaned by the AFD. And at the moment, the AFD does not see any problems with this in Brazil.
If the project is a success, Curitibanos hopes to become a model for other mid-sized Brazilian cities near the coast. Over 45,000 cubic meters of wastewater will be treated in streams that flow into the Peixe River, the lagoons, and the seaside coast of Santa Catarina state, which attracts tourists from around the world for its surfing beaches. Brazil hopes to spread the new classification for clean beaches across the country.
Our picture of the week now is this man. That's Evo Morales, the president of Bolivia, with his fist held high in front of the UN's highest judicial body, the World Court. He is fighting to solve a 139-year-old dispute with Bolivia's neighbor, Chile. At stake, changing the country's borders to give landlocked Bolivia access to the Pacific Ocean. Shona Bhattacharya has that story.
Standing before the International Court of Justice, two neighboring countries are facing off, Bolivia and Chile. Bolivia wants Chile to change its borders to allow Bolivia access to the Pacific Ocean again, a disagreement that's 139 years old.
Bolivia's case is not based on some creative interpretation of international law, some cutting-edge theory. The obligation to negotiate in good faith is fundamental to the very notion of international law.
In 1883, Bolivia lost a 4-year war against Chile. It also lost strategic territory, 120,000 square kilometers, and with it, access to the Pacific Ocean, a 400-kilometer stretch of coastline along the Atacama Desert. The annexation was put to paper in a peace treaty signed in 1904. More than a century later, Bolivia is demanding access to the coast once again in the name of trade. According to a U.S. study, a landlocked country misses out on 0.7% of growth a year. A shortfall this mineral and oil-rich nation is keen to get back, but Chile refuses to budge.
Chile has no pending border issues with Bolivia and therefore has no obligation to negotiate border issues with Bolivia.
La Paz lodged a complaint with the ICJ in The Hague in 2013 to drag Chile to the negotiation table. Back home, the debates are broadcast live on large screens across the capital.
Originally, Bolivia had access to the sea, and we have to get it back. We want to at least enjoy what belongs to us.
Like every year, on March 23rd, Adolfo will mark Sea Day, a day when Bolivians commemorate the loss of their coastline and fan the flames of patriotism.
We'll leave you with that. Thanks so much for watching Inside the Americas. We'll see you again next week for all the news from north to south.
Across Africa, presented by Georgia Calvin-Smith.
From north to South Africa, from Bamako to Nairobi, from Accra to Mogadishu. Bringing you all the political, economic, cultural and social news from Africa for a better insight into an ever-changing continent.
Across Africa on France 24 and France24.com.